Clara never imagined that her life could change so suddenly. Living in Britain, a quiet coastal town, she went about her daily routine like any other day. After another long shift at the hospital where she worked as a nurse, she felt an unusual discomfort, as if something greater were about to happen. While driving along the road that cut through the town, a sudden pain in her chest made her lose control of the vehicle. The car went off the road and everything went dark. But that emptiness wasn't frightening. It was like an embrace that calmed and inspired confidence. When she opened her eyes, Clara realized something impossible. She was floating above the accident. She saw the paramedics approaching her lifeless body, yet she felt no despair. On the contrary, an indescribable peace enveloped her. What surprised her most was the clarity of her senses. She could hear the paramedics picking up on her emotions and everything around her, as if she were in multiple dimensions at once. However, there was something even stronger: the curiosity about what would come next. In the distance, a light began to shine. It wasn't just any light. It had a magnetism that seemed to call to her very essence. At that moment, Clara felt that life is not limited to what we see. Existence holds mysteries that only the spirit is capable of unraveling. As she moved toward the light, she felt as if something was being pulled from within her, as if all her fears, doubts, and pains were dissolving. Each step toward that glow made her feel more enlightened, more whole. When she finally passed through the veil of light, she felt an unmistakable presence. Even before seeing him, Clara knew it was Jesus. His energy was like a field of absolute love, so pure that tears welled in her eyes. Jesus was there, in front of her, radiating a force that transcended human understanding. He didn't need to say anything. His gaze already held answers to questions she hadn't even known she had. He reached out his hand to Clara, inviting her to come closer. Taking a step forward, she noticed something strange in her own hands. That mark in the shape of an M, which had once seemed insignificant, now glowed softly, as if responding to his presence. Jesus pointed at the mark with a serene smile and said, "This mark is not here by chance. It is a symbol of who you are and what you have come to do in this world." His words resonated within her. Clara recalled so many times when she had felt that her life held something special, but she had never understood exactly what. Now, the meaning began to emerge. This mark has to do with mission, compassion, and creation. Every soul carries its own signs, and this is yours. It is a reminder that you were created with intention and with love. Clara felt that this was not just about her. It was something larger that connected all people and their stories. Life, she understood, is a divine interweaving where every choice reflects our journey toward a greater love. As tears continued to flow, the truth revealed by Jesus was so simple and powerful that everything became clear, as if the secrets of the universe had always been there, waiting to be discovered. The light around her pulsed in harmony with what she felt. Clara knew that this was only the introduction to something much greater, a spiritual journey that would change not only her life, but also the lives of all who heard her story. Clara felt that her feet touched a ground that wasn't physical, yet felt incredibly real. All around her, there was a tunnel pulsing with bright, luminous colors, as if space itself were made of living energy. Every step was an invitation to explore something larger. As she moved forward, the colors around her seemed to dance in harmony with her emotions. She realized that she was reliving moments from her life, but in another way, scenes full of meaning, moments of love, pain, joy, and regret. Clara understood that every choice, even the simplest one, had an impact beyond what she could imagine. It was as if the ripples created by her actions resonated, touching lives in ways she had never considered. One particular memory moved her deeply. She saw the day when, as a child, she offered help to a classmate who was crying alone in the schoolyard. At that moment, it seemed like just a small gesture, but there in the tunnel, she saw how that act had transformed the little girl's life and the connections that were made afterward. At the same time, Clara confronted moments when she had acted impulsively and hurt others. However, there was no judgment, only immense love and understanding that enveloped her. "Every experience is a teacher," said Jesus as he walked by her side. "Life isn't about perfection, it's about learning. The important thing is to recognize your mistakes and let love transform them." His words penetrated deeply into Clara's soul, awakening in her a renewed desire to live with greater awareness. She understood that her existence wasn't limited to her individual life. There was a greater purpose, a call to grow spiritually and help others do the same. As she neared the end of the tunnel, Clara began to feel the presence of other souls. They had no physical form, yet they radiated peace and joy. They were like little stars shining in an infinite firmament. "These are the bonds you have created along your journey," Jesus explained. "Every soul you have touched, in some way, is connected to you, and these connections extend beyond earthly existence." Clara realized that some of these presences were familiar, though she couldn't identify where she knew them from. She felt love and gratitude for each one, as if they were all part of one great spiritual family. As she continued, she began to understand that the tunnel was not just a path, but a process of transformation, a place of revelation, where the truths of the soul come forth to be understood and accepted. Upon reaching the end, Clara saw before her a new scene, a field full of colors that seemed alive, vibrating in a harmonious symphony. The air was charged with divine love and energy. "This is a reflection of what your soul can achieve," said Jesus, pointing to the landscape. "Life is like a field to be cultivated, and the seeds you plant determine what grows in it. Always choose to sow love and compassion." Clara felt a profound connection with what she saw and heard. She knew that the decisions she made on earth were fundamental to creating an inner space as beautiful as that scene. Before moving on, she looked again at her hands. The mark in the shape of an M was still there, and now seemed to beat with the same light that filled the place. Clara understood that her journey was only beginning, and that many lessons still lay ahead. She gazed upon the beauty of her surroundings. Every detail vibrated with an indescribable energy, as if the very environment breathed life and love. In front of her, Jesus walked serenely. His presence radiated a calm that dispelled any doubt, guiding her to a point where the landscape seemed even brighter, as if it were the heart of that space. "Clara, there is something you must understand," he said in a soft, compassionate voice. "The life you know is only a part of existence. Everything you do, feel, and think is connected to something much greater." Clara felt those words resonate in her soul, bringing back memories of moments when she had questioned the purpose of her existence. Now, before her, the answers seemed as clear as the glow emanating around her. Jesus looked at her hands again and said, "The mark you bear is not an insignificant detail. It is a message from the Creator, a reminder that your life has meaning." In that moment, Clara understood that divine love was present in all aspects of creation. He explained that the mark had multiple meanings: mission, mercy, and manifestation, each representing an aspect of the connection with the divine and the purpose of her life. "You always knew you were meant for something greater. Even when you doubted, the call was there, guiding you, because your soul recognizes what your heart sometimes forgets," Jesus continued. Clara realized that many of the difficult moments in her life had been opportunities for growth. Jesus showed that even in pain there was learning, and that every challenge she faced was molding her to fulfill her mission. Realizing she was not alone was liberating. Everything was interconnected, and the mission Jesus explained to her was greater than she had imagined: to spread love, compassion, and faith in everyday life. "What you do with the time you are given defines your path," Jesus said before extending his hand and pointing to the horizon. Clara felt that something new was about to be revealed. Still feeling the energy of Jesus' presence, the new scene around her unfolded. It was as if space vibrated in tune with her thoughts and emotions, preparing her for something important. Before her, an intense light formed a bright circle, and within it, images of her life began to appear. They were not just disconnected memories, but moments full of meaning that she had never noticed before. The scenes showed her childhood, adolescence, and adult life. Small gestures, like comforting a friend, caring for an injured animal, or offering a smile to someone, now seemed profoundly significant. "Nothing in life is trivial," said Jesus, breaking the silence. "Every choice you make is an opportunity to manifest the Creator's love in the world." Clara also revisited painful moments, arguments, mistakes, times when she failed to act kindly. However, she realized that there was no judgment in those images, only a chance to learn. The hardships she faced were enormous, but, according to Jesus, even mistakes have a purpose. They shape who you are and open doors for growth. One particular episode caught her attention, a seemingly ordinary day at the hospital, when she held the hand of a dying patient during their final moments. At that moment, it seemed like just a simple gesture, but there in the circle of light, she saw how that act of compassion had an immense impact. Jesus explained that the compassion she had shown did not end there. Love generates an energy that expands and touches other lives in ways you cannot imagine. Clara began to understand that her existence was not isolated. Every action, every word, was like a ripple that spread throughout the world, reaching people she might never meet. When she looked at her hands again, the mark shone even more brightly. Jesus pointed to it and said, "This mark is a reminder of your connection with the divine. It is the Creator's signature on your soul, showing that you have been called to something greater." He explained that the mark represented three fundamental principles: mission, mercy, and manifestation. Each of these was part of the essence of your connection with the divine and of what you were destined to achieve in the world. Your mission is to live with purpose, to spread divine love in everything you do. Mercy is the path, a call to forgive, understand, and welcome, and manifestation is the power you have to turn intentions into reality. These words deeply resonated with Clara, awakening in her a comprehension that had always seemed hidden, but now was finally revealed. She felt that her life had a meaning far greater than she had ever imagined. Before moving on, Jesus looked at her tenderly and said, "Remember, Clara, that you are not alone. The same love that placed this mark on your hands will guide you in every step you take." As the light around her began to fade, Clara knew that she had received something precious, the revelation of who she was, why she was there, and the impact she could have on the world. Her journey was just beginning. Clara felt that the landscape around her was changing, as if time itself were adapting to something imminent. Jesus was by her side, watching her with an expression that mixed love and seriousness. "Your journey up to this point is coming to an end," he said softly. "But this is not a goodbye. It is a new beginning. You still have much to do in this world." Those words tightened her heart. The desire to remain in that place of peace and fulfillment was strong, but at the same time, Clara knew that what she was experiencing was not meant solely for her. "What you have seen and learned must be shared," Jesus continued. "Every person who hears your story will have the opportunity to find hope and purpose." Clara felt a mixture of fear and responsibility. How could she express in words something so deep and transformative? Before she could ask, Jesus answered, as if reading her thoughts. "You will find the right path. Trust, Clara." She realized that returning to the physical world was not a farewell to that divine place. Everything she had experienced would be etched in her soul like a flame that would never go out. With a gentle gesture, Jesus extended his hand once more. As she held it, she felt a surge of energy run through her, as if every part of her being were being renewed. He guided her to a point where the light pulsed even more intensely, and Clara began to feel a slight pressure on her body, as if she were being drawn back to earth. "Remember, you will never be alone," said Jesus before letting her go. "I will always be by your side, guiding you in every step of your path. Trust the mark you carry. It is a reminder of who you are. When the light around her began to vanish, Clara felt a gentle tug, as if she were being wrapped in an invisible thread that brought her back to her body. It was a slow process, almost like waking from a deep dream. The sound of the heart monitors was the first thing she heard when she opened her eyes. The sensation of being back in her body was strange, like putting on old clothes that no longer fit the same way. Around her, the worried faces of her family were replaced by expressions of relief and joy. Clara saw tears in her mother's eyes and felt immense gratitude for being back. However, something had changed deeply. The colors of the world seemed more vivid, the sounds clearer, and every face she looked at appeared to have greater significance. Clara knew that she could not keep what she had experienced to herself. Her mission now was to transform each day into a reflection of the love she had felt in that other realm. While resting in her hospital bed, she looked at her hands. The mark was still there, as always, but now with a depth she had never perceived before, a constant reminder that her life had a purpose and that she had returned to the world to fulfill it. Weeks later, Clara left the hospital with her body still recovering from the accident, but with her soul transformed. Everything around her seemed new, as if the world held a hidden layer of meaning that she had not been able to see before. The mark on her hands became a constant companion. Every time she looked at it, she remembered Jesus' words, "You are loved, chosen, and you have a purpose." Those words began to guide every one of her actions. Back in her daily routine, Clara realized that she could no longer live as before. Her work, conversations, and even the smallest moments with strangers acquired a different weight. She knew that every encounter was an opportunity to spread the love she had received. Her family was the first to notice the changes. Clara was more patient, more attentive, and above all, more connected with others. In the hospital where she worked, patients began to seek her presence even when she was not the assigned nurse. People said that merely being near her made them feel more at peace. Initially, Clara did not speak much about her experience. She felt that she needed to choose carefully how to share something so profound. However, whenever someone asked, her words flowed with a clarity that surprised even her. One quiet night, while reading at home, something unexpected happened. Clara felt warmth in her hands, as if the mark were responding to something invisible. When she looked at her palms, she realized that she was not alone. A feeling of divine presence enveloped her again, similar to what she had experienced in that other realm. She closed her eyes and heard a voice in her heart. "Trust the path you are on. You are exactly where you need to be." That night, Clara decided to begin recording her story. Writing became a way to reflect on everything she had experienced, and also to organize her thoughts so that one day she could share her journey with the world. As she wrote, she realized that her words had the power to move people. It was as if divine love itself flowed through them, reaching those who read them. She understood that her mission included giving voice to that experience to help others on their own journeys. Over the following months, Clara began to take small steps to live a more intentional life. Every decision she made was guided by the purpose she felt beating in her soul. She started participating in community activities, helping people in vulnerable situations. Her goal was not to change the world on a grand scale, but to genuinely impact the lives of those who crossed her path. On one of these visits, she met a man who seemed lost and desperate. He shared his story of hardships, and Clara felt compelled to share a bit of her own experience. The man listened attentively, and in the end said, "You have no idea how much your words have helped me. It's as if you brought light to a place where there was only darkness." That encounter left a deep impression on Clara. She realized that she didn't need grand gestures or large crowds to fulfill her mission. It was enough to reach one person at a time. Gradually, Clara's story began to spread. Some people listened with admiration, while others looked at her with skepticism. But that did not unsettle her. She knew that her work was to share, not to convince. Clara came to see the mark on her hands as a kind of beacon. Whenever she felt lost or unmotivated, she would look at it and remember everything she had learned. One night, while praying, she once again felt the presence of Jesus. There were no words, just a profound feeling of gratitude and a silent reminder that she was on the right path. Years passed, and Clara continued to live with purpose. Her story touched lives, inspired change, and helped many to find their own connections with the divine. She knew that someday she would return to the place she had seen, to the light she had felt. But until then, her mission on earth was to be a reflection of God's love and a living witness to what it means to carry a divine mark on one's heart and hands.